Good evening, citizens. I am Jesse Emmerich, and this is EDCI 6 o'clock news. Tonight's broadcast consists of lottery winner frauds. How do they do it? Hot dog ingredients. What are in those franks? And a man finds a boys in his yard and defends his shakes. But now we're bringing you a hot topic this evening about education, the voucher system. The voucher system was founded in order to give students and families freedom of choice for schools. It also attempts to ease the affordability of private schools, though there has been much controversy over the subject. Many have come to believe that the voucher system discriminates against certain groups. Is this true? And what groups are singled out? We have us today Principal from Nowheresville High School, Andrew Barriero, to discuss the issues. Good evening, Andrew. Nice to have you here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Jesse. And let's get at it.
Alrighty. Well, so Andrew, you have been in education for 20 some odd years now and have researched and seen the voucher system firsthand. What are these discriminations that people talk about?
Well, that's quite a question to start off with. But let's see. At first glance, the voucher system, it appears there's no discrimination because the supporters of this system, the voucher system, they often say, oh, it's about choice. The low-income families, they get the choice. However, it's quite to the contrary when you look at it in depth. So, what do you want to look at it in depth? Well, let's do it. So, if a low-income family, wants the vouchers, they apply for it and they get selected. They choose a school. Once they've chosen that school, they might run into certain problems like there are extra fees for transportation, for the books, for extracurricular activities. Who knows? And the vouchers do not include those extra fees. Therefore, they cannot afford. So the very low-income families that this is targeting, unfortunately, it is not helping, but only hurting. Furthermore, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but there's a selection process by the various schools. And then there's a discrimination that isn't seen as much, but against the special needs students, because public schools have very great programs for special needs kids, while the private and religious schools often do not at all. So the kids that have the special needs have no choice here. They are limited. They have to stay in the public schools all along. So, well, I'm sure we'll talk more on these issues, but that's just the general overview.
Why, thank you, Andrew. That's very interesting. Actually, we have also received questions from parents and guardians concerning this system. Hopefully you can answer these questions for us. And the first one says, can a school charge tuition and fees in addition to what is already covered by the voucher?
This makes me a little uncomfortable to answer, but yes, indeed, they can. And as I was mentioning earlier, there can be a lot of fees. And for the parents, that means only the high and middle income families will be able to afford such extra fees. And it's missing the point. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Goodness. Wow. The second question is, who is responsible for determining whether a student is eligible?
Well, first of all, it is the state, because they have to go through the application process. There are certain requirements based on the family income. There is also a quota they only allow in the state of Indiana, the fine state we do live in. It only allows 15,000 students. That's not very much for a whole state now. And so it's first come, first serve, and thus if a family doesn't get in time, if they are a family that really needs it, but they still don't get there in time, well, unfortunately, they're out of luck. Furthermore, the schools do selection. So if they're eligible by the state, they might not be eligible by these private and religious school standards. So they might not get through to you'd say the next round.
Goodness. Sounds like a lot of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next question is, if my child has special education services, will we receive additional funding to meet the student's needs?
Oh man, you are making me so nervous in here because this is very unfortunate, and it's a big fat no.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, indeed. And with that no, that means again the students' needs for these special education students are not being met. Their only option is to stay in the public schools or look very, very hard for the few private or religious schools that do have it. But those few schools, that just doesn't give them very options. And maybe that those few schools are very far from their homes. They can't get the transportation. So again, the choice that the supporters of the vouchers talk about very much is not a choice at all.
My goodness. Well, let's hope for the best for the special needs and in the voucher system. Next question is, can the school discriminate in its application process?
Well, no. Well, yes, actually, kind of, a little bit. Let me explain that answer. So, from the politically correct answer, we would say, no, they cannot discriminate by race, by color, by national origin, of anything of that type. But as I did mention previously, they do have the selection process of the private and religious schools. So, let's say a kid with a voucher, he has gotten that far, he applies to a school. Yet, he doesn't have the certain worldview of this, say, religious school. Or there's some other issue where they say, well, we don't like how you do these things. We don't like this certain area of your life. They, you'd say maybe under the table a little bit are discriminating. So, naturally, it is a discriminatory process.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, seems like we've gone through a lot here, and actually we gotta cut to commercial here in a few. So, well, folks, there you go. Now, what do you think about the voucher system? And seems like we have a lot of research to do, and I'd like to thank you, Andrew, for all the help you did. Really appreciate it.
Indeed.
Alrighty. Now, we are about to go to a commercial, but we will come back and we will hear the story of a man who finds boys in his yard, then defends his shakes. We'll be right back.